This past Sunday, I wrote on the fantasy football blog that Colby Parkinson of the Rams was my favorite streaming tight end, someone who most people would not start in the fantasy playoffs, but I felt was the best bargain out there, the best streamer out there among the guys who wouldn't be the normal must-start tight ends. And he came through 2 touchdowns and all that. The problem is chasing those points. And that's why yesterday morning, when my post rang, someone commented, "Hey, you didn't mention Colby Parkinson." And my response was, I don't think he's a big story going into this one. I felt that 4 catches for 40 yards, give or take, a point or two on either side, was about what was expected. That he would be okay, possibly, but not great. And I understood why a lot of people were excited about Parkinson. He had 2 straight good games, great games. And so why not a third? And then you get the added, he's going against his former team. And Devontae Adams is out. Who else is going to catch the ball? It's a common mistake. Who else will catch the ball? Of course it'll be Parkinson. Well, that's true if you're Puka Nacua, if you're a mainstay. But the idea that, the next man up is a tight end, I think is not backed by the data. Now, I don't have the data in front of me. I'm just saying I have not seen anyone present any evidence that says when a number 2 or a co-number 1, whatever wide receiver is out for a game, the tight end gets the biggest bump. The natural, to me, conclusion would be no, whoever is stepping in to replace that wide receiver is probably getting the biggest bump. And the tight end is still playing a tight end role. I thought it was interesting last weekend that Parkinson barely outsnapped Terrence Ferguson, the high-priced second-round rookie tight end. That to me was more interesting. I probably should have talked about that on the blog yesterday morning. The fact that Parkinson is not necessarily the number 1 with Tyler Higbee out. It's a cluttered tight end core. It's cluttered in the sense that you have 2 guys, one of them who is a 26-year-old kind of journeyman in Parkinson, who's coming off, a career day essentially on Sunday, and then Terrence Ferguson, who, it's not every year that a tight end is drafted, in the second round. In recent years, I think there have been some guys, I think Dalton Kincaid was the first or second round, or Sam Laporta might have been. Like you get those guys that are drafted, but it's not it's not something that you just expect every year. If you're going to get drafted in the second round, you're a tight end. The expectation is you're going to make an impact in year 1 or at the latest year 2. Otherwise, the general manager has made a huge mistake in investing that much draft capital in someone who is not going to be an almost immediate contributor. So the idea that Ferguson should just be ignored and that this journeyman Parkinson is the number 1, I felt was a little premature. And so that's why chasing points, especially chasing tight end points, is risky. Parkinson's big breakout on Sunday came at the expense of other players. Parkinson is not a natural alpha receiver or even a beta receiver. At best, he's a number 4 or number 5 offensive option. I would argue number 5 or number 6 when everyone is healthy. And so next time you see a tight end have a big game, ask yourself, who were the folks who did not have a good game because of that? I've actually pointed that out before with Isaiah Likely. I forgot when, but it was on the blog where, Likely has a big game. And Mark Andrews does nothing, and no wide receiver except Zay Flowers does anything. And then the question becomes: so is this just a Flowers, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely offense with Lamar Jackson? No, there's more to it than that. And so if it's Likely's turn, if Likely just fit in, if he was the guy who inherited the targets and got the catches and scored, it doesn't mean that you go out and get Likely and start him the next week, because there will probably be some kind of shift that happens. It's going to be Andrew's turn. It's going to be Rashad Bateman's turn. Whatever it is, they're not necessarily going back to the likely well every single week. With Zay Flowers, yeah, he's the alpha receiver. So you know what you're getting in someone like Zay Flowers. He's probably going to lead the team in targets as long as he's the alpha receiver. With Isaiah Likely, it's hit or miss. And when you're chasing points on a hit or miss tight end, you're going to miss more often than you hit because that's the nature of a hit or miss tight end. More often than not, they miss. There's only a handful of tight ends that you can consistently start. So, the telltale signs are an outlandish number of targets or receptions that just don't make sense. It's clear that situationally that was what worked in that game, but it's not necessarily replicable. It could be one huge play, a 50 or 60 yard, catch that, they end up with 4 catches for 80 yards. And you have to look at the tape and see, well, what happened? Was it a broken play? Was it just one of those cases where that's great? They got 50, 60 yards in that play, but the tight end's usually not going to do that. So we can't bank on that most weeks, or even a handful of weeks. And the other part of it is touchdowns. That very rarely do you get a tight end who is a fairly consistent red zone threat. Colby Parkinson, had his day on Sunday. And what we see on Thursday is other guys get involved. That's why either my attitude is with tight ends is you either draft someone that you think you're going to start every week, or you just accept the fact that you're streaming, and you're not streaming based on whoever scores a lot of points the previous week. You're streaming based on matchup and based on other kinds of conditions that allow for, hey, this tight end is ascending. This defense will probably give up 2 or 3 touchdown passes because that's generally what happens with that defense. I'm gonna roll the dice because the odds are in my favor on that, not just, oh, they got 20 fantasy points last week. Let's see if they can do it again. I'm BJ Riddell, Fantasy Football Winners. Follow me on the blog. Email me anytime. We'll see you.